Welcome back. How you doing, everybody? We're here at the Hive. We're hanging out with Bebop. Say hi, everybody. She's a pretty girl. Come on, dance. You can dance. She's a dancing bird. I'm telling you, she likes to dance. She should be like in the movies in Hollywood. She's really she likes to dance. And we're here today in the Hive. And we have a really great show coming up tomorrow. I guess it's another day or so. We have Dennis Sigalos in the Hive. Dennis Sigalos is a truly amazing writer, and we're going to talk about him today in the show. But we're getting ready for a Dennis in the Hive. So if you want to go ahead and tune in, he's going to be Saturday morning at 11 a.m. in California time. So you want to check out Dennis. We had him before around Christmas, and this is a part 2. So it's something you won't want to miss. Dennis Sigalos is a really great guy. He's a real fun interview. We're going to have some really cool stuff on the Sigalos. We're going to have a really good show, and you're not going to want to miss that one. If you miss it, you're going to miss it. You got to watch the rerun, right? So, and also if you want to subscribe and ring the notification bell, you can be alerted to the next show, because you won't want to miss the shows we have coming up. It looks like we're going to have Sarah Cords coming up this next week. The beautiful 144 Sarah Cords. She's a great writer. And we're going to talk some Speedway with Sarah and Blake Borello on Wednesday. So we're going to go ahead and have another good week of young riders. Next week is going to be the Young Speedway Rider Week. We like that one. You know, the young Speedway riders are the future. And we're going to talk about when I was a young Speedway rider. Can you believe it? I was a young Speedway rider. And we're going to talk about that today. And what happened is I wanted my first motorcycle. I had these parents that didn't want me to ride motorcycles. So I wasn't lucky. I didn't have parents who were racers and stuff. I had to really work hard for a motorcycle. And every day I used to go sit on the motorcycles at Lamar Yamaha on Chapman Avenue. And I used dreaming of these bikes. And I really liked the motorcycles. I mean, I was in love with them. And then I used to go every day to my mom, Mom, can I have a mini bike, a mini Enduro? I really liked the Yamaha Mini Enduro, because that year they came out with a Bumblebee, yellow and black, and I liked that one since day one. And my mom was like, no, you will not have a motorcycle. My mom was deathly scared of motorcycles. She hated motorcycles pretty much. She didn't want me to ride them because she didn't want her little boy to get hurt, but I didn't care. Who cares about getting hurt? Let's ride the motorcycle. So one day I actually begged my mom, and she said, maybe for Christmas you might get one for Santa. And I said, well, I don't believe in Santa. And then she said, you're not going to get a motorcycle if you don't believe in Santa Claus. And I said, I believe. So I believed in Santa, and I actually hid behind the coffee table near the front room. I was there for 8 hours, hiding. I want to see if Santa brings me a motorcycle, that Mini Enduro. And about 3 o'clock in the morning, a beautiful Mini Enduro comes rolling out. And I was like, oh, party. And I'm like, you can't say nothing because you're not supposed to be here. You're supposed to be sleeping. So I stayed up all night waiting for that motorcycle, and it was beautiful. I actually just had the most amazing time when I got that motorcycle. I was the happiest I've ever been, and we're going to talk about that right now. Welcome back. We're here in the ocean, and there's a lot of people here today, so we're having a good time in the ocean. And today we're going to talk about a blog. A friend, Danny Black, he went ahead and commented on one of my videos from Paul Belial, and he said, can you share some of your mini bike motorcycle adventures? I lived in Orange Park Acres, and I used to go riding, and I know you rode up there too, so could you share that? So Danny, a new subscriber, thank you so much. And also, there's a subscribe button at the bottom of the page. If you go ahead and push that button and subscribe to the channel, I would appreciate it very, very much. But anyways, Danny went ahead and told me to go ahead and do the vlog today on the mini bike racing. So here we go. I live just several houses down from the Orange YMCA. I had my first mini bike ride and I just fell in love with it. It was a Honda QA50. Do you remember that one? The little bike with a big fat gas tank, the QA50. Gorgeous bike, and I just loved it. After the YMCA, I wanted to ride motorcycles. They had a motorcycle shop on Chapman Avenue called Lamar Yamaha. And I used to go to Lamar every day after school before I had my bike. And I would sit on the motorcycles, the 250s, the 125s, and the 450s or 400s. It was fun. And I begged my mom every day for like 1,000,000 times, and she said no. And then one Christmas, guess what? Santa brought me a Yamaha Mini Enduro. It was a rainy day at my sister's house at James Street in Orange, and it was raining all day, and I said, I don't care, and I rode that Mini Enduro all day long in the street. It was just great. I was wet, I was cold, I had pneumonia. I was riding a motorcycle. I actually went to McPherson Junior High School in those days in Orange. Do you know where that's at? It's off of like one of those streets there, Prospect Avenue. And we're just riding every day after school. School is kind of boring, right? When you're like in junior high, it's like, ah! So we went ahead and after school was riding. I didn't have really a riding companion. I was always riding alone. I didn't care. As long as I'm riding, who cares who you're riding with, right? And I sometimes rode down the railroad tracks pretty much every day, actually. And then I would stop once in a while if there's a basketball game at McPherson and say hi to some of my classmates. I wore my Steve McQueen helmet and I was a dirt bike rider. There's an old saying that practice makes perfect. But I always say practice makes really, really good. And I was just having fun, actually. I didn't really care about getting good. It was just a lot of fun. So when I start riding bikes every day, it was more for fun than it was to actually get good. But I got good and didn't even know it. Every day after school, I used to go riding at different places. San Diego Junior High School. I used to ride up the mountains there, and there's lots of cactus and lots of rattlesnakes. And I'd move over to the Orange Hills, where the restaurant area is up there. And I used to ride up the hill from the El Medina Park, up the mountain, then down. I had a complete circuit, a trail, every day. I used to go riding at the YMCA, the Orange YMCA. It's off the 55 freeway, Chapman Avenue East, Yorba Street, right there. I live pretty close to that area. And I used to go down the creek. That was one of my 5 areas. I was there, Orange Hills, Santiago, all over the place, going to the rock quarry. I did the whole area. One day I was coming out of the creek, I was riding the motorcycle. I come up the hill and there was an Orange PD cop saying, come here, come here. And I'm like, I ain't going there. So I turned the bike around and I went down the hill really fast. And then I turned right and went underneath Chapman Avenue, and I just kept going over down there near the Jack in the Box. And I got up and then I rode the bike home. And I'm like, I was so scared. That was the first time I actually ran away from the police, and I got away with it. I never got a ticket except when I got a little older, and we'll tell you about that one. And one experience happened to me a few years later. I was coming home. I actually had a 175 Yamaha at the time, and I was riding my friend David Black, and we went to the movie theaters across the street from Disneyland, the old movie theater. And we were coming back late at night, and I was only like 14 years old. And the police looked at me and said, come here, you look underage. And he goes, you look like you're like 14 years old. And I said, I am 14 years old. And they went ahead and gave me a ticket. And well, that's it. We're motorcycle adventure and all over the place, getting crazy and getting wild. And that's what I used to do. So thank you so much for watching the crazy times, the adventures, and the blog. Subscribe at the bottom. So please like, share, subscribe, and ring that bell. Yeah, ring that bell. Hey, I forgot to mention in that blog I was racing Speedway. I was racing mini Speedway. No, not mini. I was racing mini bikes at the Saddleback Park in Saddleback up in Orange Hills. And we had lots of good riders. We had the Moran brothers. I mean, these guys were good. And we had Jeff Ward, and actually I was racing Randy Mamola. Do you know Randy Mamola? He was one of the greatest road racers in his day. He was a really fast guy. And I look on the program and I'm like, oh, Randy Mamola. That's cool. And we got to see the Moran brothers in their dark green and white with their clovers all over them, their Lucky Charms, and they were cool. And I was just pretty much wearing nothing there. Actually, this is what I wore. This was the mini bike races at the Saddleback Park. It was fun. And here I am with my friend, my classmate, Jay DRC. Rest in peace, Jay. He's passed away a couple years ago. And my number was 928. There I am with my yellow and black jersey. Does that surprise you? My first racing jersey. From Robert M. Law Yamaha, actually is where the bike came from in Anaheim. And my dad painted a bumblebee on my, actually it should have been, it was like a green hornet, but it was a bumblebee on my first helmet. You could see it. My dad painted that, and he was cool, you know. My dad said, what do you want to be? And I said, a bumblebee. And he said, okay, I'll paint you one. So my first helmet had a green helmet with a bumblebee on it. So that was a sign of things to come, right? And then there I am in front of my house. I painted my bike black. I took that beautiful yellow bike and I painted it black. I like black and yellow, but I painted it black and red. That was a little bit of a nasty color, I think. I didn't know what I was doing. But that was like some of my first early day races there at the Saddleback Park when I was racing. I didn't race actually the Morans because they were in a different class. I don't know exactly what happened, but they were in a different class. And we had lots of fun racing the mini bikes at the Saddleback Park. It was really cool. And so I actually outgrew my bike. If you look at me here, I'm really tall. I'm like a big dude. And the motorcycle, the mini enduro became very small. I mean, I was like this big guy. And the bike, I didn't care, but I started getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And the bike was getting smaller, smaller, smaller. So, so I needed to do something. So I worked really hard and I was saving my money. I knew that if I had money, maybe I could get lucky and buy a Speedway bike. Today I'm going to talk about how I got my first racing bike. my first Speedway bike. It wasn't easy. You know, as a child, I mentioned that things were not easy. Like, parents did not want to buy me a motorcycle very easy, and it was never easy. And I used to see like some of the fathers, they used to like buy all their kids bikes and the best of everything. And I was like, why can't I have that? Why can't I have everything so easy? So sometimes things in life are not easy. And my first Speedway bike was not easy. I realized at a young age that if I wanted a motorcycle, I was gonna have to work for it. Like, nobody was gonna buy me a Speedway bike especially. So I was thinking the best thing to do is just save your money, like work and save. So I got a job at the Orange County Register as a paper boy. And I used to like come home from school every day and fold my papers, and then Saturday and Sundays I used to do it early in the morning and deliver. I had like sometimes 50 to 150 subscribers, and I would go deliver every day. Of course, Mondays was a light day, and then Wednesday was heavy, and then Sunday was super heavy with the comics and stuff. So I did that for a few years. I just worked hard. The money I saved. And I thought, if I save enough, I can buy a Speedway bike. It was like a dream, but hey, we must dream. We're acting like we should be. So as I'm saving for my motorcycle, my Speedway bike, I'm going to school every day, and I see this neighbor friend of mine, a childhood friend. We used to ride Speedway bicycles together as a kid, Paul Belial. He used to have a beautiful brand new Jeep, green Jeep truck, and in the back there was a brand new beautiful Jawa motorcycle. Everything was nice. His family owned Belial's restaurant, so they had some money, and he had beautiful equipment and a beautiful brand new Speedway bike. And when I saw the Speedway bike in the back, I was mad. I was like, this is not right. So I was really wanting a Speedway bike since I saw my friend have a brand new Jawa in the back of his beautiful brand new truck. So I start looking in the papers in the motorcycle department, and I was like looking, and then I saw a Speedway bike for sale. I said, oh, it was like $850 or $750. And I'm like, I like that one. And I had the money. I saving. So I called the number, and they said, come on over and look at the bike. So I went over, and it was the guy who was a friend of Danny Becker's. He said, this was Danny's bike. He gave it to me to sell for Danny. I fell in love with it. It was a JAP. It was not a Jawa, it was a JAP. It looked like in pretty good condition. I think somebody gave it to Danny, and then he rode it a couple times, and then he said, I don't want this thing. So he gave it to his friend to sell. And I said, I'll take it. I want that motorcycle. Give it to me. I don't care what it is. It's a Speedway bike. I'll take it. I don't like what you become. So I bought the Speedway bike, and I brought it home, and my mom was like, what in the world is this? And I said, Mom, it's a Speedway bike. And I think she had a heart attack. She's like, oh my gosh, Bryan is like crazy now. He bought a Speedway motorcycle. And I was like, I love this thing. And I would start it up in front of my house on Loretta, and I would drive it up and down the street. It had like a straight pipe, very loud. And it did wheelies and stuff like that. And it was just like a crazy monster dragon. And I was like, I like that one. I like it. So I went ahead and gave my mother a heart attack. She hated this thing. And you know, the neighbors really hated it, because back in those days, the Speedway bikes had these like mufflers. There's no mufflers, they're just straight pipes, and they were loud. I mean, that JAP was probably it shook the neighborhood. I rode up and down the street, and I start learning wheelies on that thing. It was fast. I mean, it was like a rocket ship, and it was pretty good at doing wheelies, and my neighbors hated me. And I used to ride, and my neighbor said, "We're calling the police on you if you ride it one more time." And I said, "Okay, I'll ride it one more time." And I rode it, and then every time I would ride the bike, I would quickly put the Speedway bike in the garage, and the police would drive up and down the street, and there was no Speedway bike, right? No ticket. So I had a good time on that Speedway. It was really fast. I mean, coming from a Yamaha 60 to a 500cc Speedway bike, it was a huge difference. I mean, talk about a jump up from CCs from 60 to 500, and then it was a rocket ship. That thing was like throwing sparks out of the straight pipe. It was like a monster. It was like a fire-breathing, fuel-burning monster. It was crazy, and it was really loud. So that was just nuts. And then my older sister, she said to me, "Bryan, like, Mom is not happy with you." And I said, "I don't care. I worked as a paper boy for that Speedway bike, and it's mine. She didn't buy it. She didn't pay for it, and she can't touch it because I did everything." So she was totally out of control. Like, she couldn't control me at all because that was my bike. So now I had this Speedway bike. I was like, "What are you going to do with it? You're going to just like look at it in your garage?" And I said, "No, I will ride this bike. I bought it to ride it, not to look at it." So I talked to my friends like Paul and other guys. I'm like, "Hey, what do I ride this thing? I don't know what to do." And they said, "Go to OCIR and practice." So I said, "Oh, okay." So I went to OCIR, Orange County International Raceway. It's closed now, but at that time it was open. And I got on the bike and rode the first time on my Speedway bike. And the first turn, just like my mini bikes, the first turn I fell down. I'm like, ah! And I'm like, God, what was that all about? And I did that on my mini bike too when I raced my first time, but I was just practicing. I get up and I said, "Don't fall again like that. Never fall again." And I never fall again like that, just like the mini bikes. So I get up and I start riding a little bit and trying to slide it. And I'm like, wow, this is really weird. And so I just figured I need to start racing Speedway. It was the end of the Speedway season at Costa Mesa. It was only like a month or so left in the season. It was like August or something like that. The racing season gets over with in like September. So I contacted someone from the Speedway and I said, "I want to ride." And I said, "I want to ride Speedway. I don't know what I'm doing, but I want to ride." And this guy named John was the referee, and he did the licensing. So he said, "You need to go to OCIR, and then you need to do a practice test, and you need to do a physical." So I said, "Okay." So I did my physical. Of course I passed. And then I did the riding test, and I guess I did okay. And then he said, "Okay, fall. You must fall. Yeah, I must crash." And I'm like, I never crashed before on purpose. I never crashed before on purpose. So I went ahead and said, "Okay, I will fall." So I rode the bike and I did a really nice fall, like, and then he said, "You passed. You got your license. You can race Speedway now at Costa Mesa Speedway." But you need a pair of leathers to race. You cannot race with no leathers. And I didn't know where to get a pair of leathers. I didn't have a lot of money after buying that Speedway bike, but I had a little extra money. And I was looking through the paper and it said, "Speedway uniform for sale." And one of the old Speedway riders, actually I saw him in a program. I think he wasn't that good, but he was a little guy. And his name was Ron Taylor. I believe. And he lived up in like Trabuco Canyon or Majeska Canyon. And I drove up there and I wanted to see this thing. But he was a little guy. And I was kind of a tall guy, like 6'1", and he was like 5'5" or something. So that's how it all began with the Speedway. Is I got my license for Costa Mesa, and I decided I will ride. I will ride, and so I will tell you more about my first races. My first races at Costa Mesa. But now I have a Speedway bike, and I have a license, and I'm gonna race. I'm gonna race. Race. Race, race. I don't care how I do, it doesn't matter. I'm gonna race. One of the things I was missing was a uniform. I had no leathers. So I was looking for sale in the paper for some leathers, and I saw a uniform for sale. It was by a Speedway rider named Ron Taylor. Do you remember Ron Taylor? He was a little guy, and he was selling his uniform, and it was like $50 or something. I don't know what it was, but I bought it. And he was very tiny, and I was very big, and it didn't fit me. But I wore that uniform, my first uniform, and it didn't really fit me. I was like the Incredible Hulk walking through this thing. Ron Taylor's uniform. I went ahead and put my name on the front and duct tape, just tape my name, Bryan, on the front, because on the front and duct tape, just tape my name, Bryan, on the front, because I didn't want to get the leathers worked on because they're so small. I knew I would outgrow them. So I went ahead and duct taped my name and my number on the back. And I was ready for my first race at Costa Mesa. Woo! A few years before that, when I was like 13 years old, I was reading the newspaper, the Register, and I saw this article about a young guy. He was exactly my age, named Dennis Arthur Sagalos, and he was a young junior Speedway rider at the time. He was only 13 years old there. That's actually the original clipping from the Orange County Register. I actually couldn't believe it because I was like 13 years old and Dennis Sagalos was 13 years old. And he inspired me in a way because I'm like, hey, I should be out there riding Speedway. And I had this ugly old uniform. But the thing was, I had a uniform, so I didn't care. So I was really happy, to have my first race at the Costa Mesa Speedway at the fairgrounds. And then I opened my first night of racing. Here it is with Wild Bill Cody. This is the program, the original program with Wild Bill and the Rocket Rick Woods. And it was really cool. And this was when Dennis Sagalos just turned 16. And in event number 11, here it is, Dennis Sagalos. He was in the program. There's Dennis Arthur in the bottom, number 228. And I was over on the 0-yard line at number 339. I couldn't believe it. That same kid that I was watching race for many years ago, this guy right here, I was sad because I had to race that guy on my first. I only had 1 week of practice. I had no gloves. I had my name and duct tape on my front. Hey, I was on a Speedway bike, and that was cool. And then I looked over. Dennis was pitting just a little ways away, and Dennis had this beautiful white and orange uniform, beautiful brand new Bates leathers. And then I looked down and I said, man, I have a pretty crappy uniform. So Dennis had this beautiful outfit, this beautiful Bates leathers, beautiful brand new shiny fresh uniform, and I had this old piece of crap from Ron Taylor. When I got the first bike, I decided I'd just go ahead and race. And at that time, there was a lot of racers wanting to race at Costa Mesa, especially D3 riders. So I went ahead and contacted the Speedway at Costa Mesa, and I said, I want to be on the program. And they probably snickered at me and said, you must wait like 4 weeks. And I'm like, 4 weeks to go racing? Are you kidding me? The season will be over with. So I said, put my name on the program then in 4 weeks from now, okay? 4 weeks. And or something like that, 2 weeks to 4 weeks. I said, I want to race now. I don't want to wait like a month. So I said, how can I do this to my friends who are racing? And they said, you can go early and then you can wait and be a reserve on the program. And I said, I will do that. I will do that. So I went ahead and every week I would go there after school. Like I'd be there like 3 or 3:30, and I'd be like the first guy in line. And I would just wait, and then when the gates opened, I would sign up as first reserve, and then I start getting rides. That first reserve. So I didn't wait 4 weeks, I just went ahead and started racing. And so that's when I had my first race. So my first race on the program, it was a few weeks later, I went ahead and I looked and I noticed a guy who was very famous, who I just read a paper report about. His name is Dennis Sigalos. And Dennis was an up-and-coming famous rider. He had his own practice track and was racing, and he had, I think, practice with Bruce Penhall. He was quite the rider and had quite the write-up, and I thought, oh, very good, I raced this guy. And that was the first and only time you would ever see Dennis Sigalos in D3, and I was in that race. So my first race was against Dennis Sigalos, the great Dennis. And I started at the 0-yard line and he started at the 10. And the first turn, I actually have a video of that, and I should have played it right here. And I went ahead, and the first turn I was in like first place, and then Dennis like, wow, he went by me like a lightning. He was flying down like a D1 rider. He was like, woo. And I don't know what I did, but he ended up winning the D3 main event. You have Dennis Sigalos in D3. And most of you know that Dennis went to Europe and became a very famous American racer. And Dennis was just, you know, one of the World Cup riders, and he won all these races and world championships and things. with best pairs and second place and different things like that. So I raced Dennis Sigalos in his only third division ride in his lifetime. That was pretty cool.
And tomorrow, 11 a.m., which is Saturday, California time, we have the great Dennis Sigalos in the High, part 2. We had a great part 1 with Dennis, and he said, I will come back for more. And we're going to go ahead and play that video of our first D3 race. So you're not going to want to miss that. Dennis said, you have the video when I raced my only D3? And I go, Dennis, I have that DVD. It's right here. It's right here, Dennis. I have it right here. This is the DVD of Siggy in D3. And I'm going to go ahead and play that for you. Come Saturday, 11 a.m., you're not going to want to miss that. Dennis Sigalos in D3. That's going to be fun. But after the season, I didn't really have a memorable season, actually. I was just happy to be there, and I had that 22-inch tire. I really didn't know what to do. I just knew I had a Speedway bike. I'm not really much of a mechanic, but I just was having fun. I just, decided I would just enjoy the day. I figured having seat time is better than no seat time. Even though I was pretty crappy, like a D4 rider, it didn't matter because I was racing Costa Mesa Speedway and I was racing Speedway, even though I didn't look very good. But at the end of the season, they have the United States Nationals every year. And I wore my bell jacket. I was a Speedway rider, man. I was going to the United States Nationals, even though I was D3. Hey, I was proudly displaying my bell jacket at the United States Championship, and here it is.
Welcome back. We have Vivov here, and today we're going to talk about one of the most amazing nights in US Speedway history. It was amazing, and nowhere online, like in Google or Yahoo, can you find it. So we're going to talk about it right now. The 1975 US Speedway National Championship at the LA Coliseum. This was the godfather of Speedway, Harry Oxley's most famous promotion. He rented the Los Angeles Coliseum for a national championship. I was a young speed rider, just finished my first few weeks of racing in D3, and I was proudly at that event wearing my Bell Helmets jacket. What was more amazing than Harry Oxley's promotion was the riders, the list of 16 top United States riders, and we're going to talk about those right now. Steve Bass was the current #1 national champion. He was seeking his 3rd national championship. Alan Crazy Christian, the top rider from Northern California, seeking another #1 plate. The Rocket, Rick Woods, the top superstar from Huntington Beach, California. Lightning Larry Shaw, he was fast as lightning. Mark Cherry in his first national championship. And the person who won that national championship, Mike Bass, with a perfect score of 15 points. Sexy Jeff Sexton, he missed winning last year's national championship by 1 point. Sonny Nutter, one of the most famous and popular riders of his time. Rich McMurray, the current #1 plate holder in Northern California. Scott Sivage, a very hot, fast rider, expected to do really well. Wild Bill Cody, a famous rider
And he was one of the original 5 to help bring Speedway back to the United States of America. Bruce the Fox Penhall, future United States and 2-time world champion. Mike Caruso, a very powerful and strong rider. He can win just about any national championship. Dangerous Doug Farrell. He finished 2nd place that night in the national championship with 12 points, right behind Mike Bass. Bobby Boogaloo Swartz. Bobby didn't win that night. That was his first national championship, but he went on to win multi-national championships and World Best Pairs championships with Bruce Penhall. Lastly, Jim the Animal Fishbeck. He was that rider who flew 3 rows into the stadium that night and broke an old lady's leg. We'll talk about that one. The 1975 United States National Championship at the LA Coliseum was one of the most amazing events. You had to be there. It was one of the greatest nights in US Speedway. And like I mentioned, you can't find it anywhere online except for right here. It was amazing. There was lots of activities. The announcers were great. The trophy girls, the people in the stands. The stands were packed at the Los Angeles Coliseum. Mike Bass won that championship with a perfect score of 15 points. Doug Farrell finished 2nd with 12. And tied with 12 was a reserve rider. Amazing, Steve Nutter. He went ahead as a reserve rider and finished on the podium, 3rd place with 12 points. I guess there was a tiebreaker between Dub and Steve Nutter, and Dub won that. But amazing, a reserve rider, Steve Nutter, got 3rd. We haven't mentioned him before. And there was several amazing sponsors. And we want to mention them. It's 35 years later, and we're going to honor those sponsors. I'm serious, that was one of the best Speedway nights in US history. It was amazing, like I mentioned. And that experience with Jim the Animal Fishbeck. I was sitting 5 rows behind the wall, and this old lady was sitting, and he crashed and he flew over the wall. He said he doesn't like to race the desert because there's not a lot of people to watch him wipe out. Well, he wiped out right in front of me and broke this old lady's leg in 3 places, and she screamed. And Jim Fishbeck gets up and says, "Sorry, lady." And then he climbs over the wall and he gets on his broken bike, but then he has to push it back to the pits. It was an event that was well worth your money. If you paid to see that race, you really got your money's worth. Those riders back in the 70s were just classic. I mean, they were just amazing. Several of them have since passed away, rest in peace. We miss you guys. And you guys just performed an amazing show. And we really appreciate that experience at the Los Angeles Coliseum. Thank you so much for watching this video. It means a lot to me, and for subscribing to my channel and joining the family of viewers. If you like this content, please subscribe. And thank you so much. So please like, share, subscribe, and ring that bell.
And ring that bell. Hey, that was really a cool night. I mean, talk about being inspired as a young boy
and just watching these amazing riders, and they were just classic, and they were fast, and then Fishbeck flying over the wall and, breaking that old lady's leg. That was just crazy stuff. And I was like, you're going to have to ride these guys if you get good. And I'm like, I don't care. I want to ride. So I went ahead and just start practicing. That championship actually inspired me. It really made me say, Bryan, the Speedway season's over, because it's over when the national championship concludes. And so I just thought, I'm going to go ahead and practice, and I want to be better. I didn't know if I was going to be very good, because I had kind of a rough start in D3, but hey, you never know. Rome was not built in a day. So I was telling you about my D3 racing, the 6 weeks or so in D3. It was pretty cool, but something happened. Something happened in the off season that changed my racing forever. So Ken was watching me ride, and he came up to me and he said, "Can I give you a tip, young man?" And he said, "You need lessons. You need to learn how to race Speedway." And I said, "Sure. Who's going to teach me?" And he said, "Dangerous Dove Farrow, number 121. And I'm like, wow, how can this be? How can Dangerous Dove Farrow teach me? And he said, "Easy, next Saturday and Sunday, if you come here and you bring $300, it's like $1,000 now." He said, "Dove will teach you for 2 days. You got Dove Farrow as your private coach." And I said, I like that one. Sign me up. I will take it. So Dove Farrow went ahead and he coached me. He was my first Speedway coach. Dangerous Dove had just placed second place in the United States Nationals at the Coliseum. So we knew Dangerous was really a good rider. And I thought, I like that for a coach. I'll take number 2. And the first thing he said is, "Bryan, remove that seat. Your butt's on that seat too much. You got to take the seat off. Take it off." And then he said, "Also, you need to take that 22-inch tire out. And he put the 19-inch tire on." So the first things I did was I removed the seat, and he happened to have a 19-inch tire he put on my bike. So that was the situation. And then he said, "Go ride the bike." And I said, "But Dove, there's no seat on the bike." And he said, "You need to learn to ride without a seat. You need to get your butt off that seat and slide with your butt up and your nuts to the top of the bike, and you need to really learn how to ride like that." And I said, "Okay, I will do that." So that's how it started. Start practicing. Start practicing without the seat. And then I didn't sit down. I just stood up the whole way and rode like that. And it helped me. Thank you, Dove.
I guess if you're a flat tracker, you sit with your butt back on the seat. But if you're a Speedway rider, you get up on that oil tank up there with your nuts up to the top, and you ride a Speedway bike. That's exactly what Ivan Major taught the guys. And I went ahead and practiced.
it was just like, it was something I did every week. In my last blog, I talked about it and just worked hard. I absorbed everything that Dub said. I humbled myself because I was being coached by a very good writer, and I practiced everything that Dub taught me.
I don't mind that you've been riding with your head stuck out the window. And it's alright if I don't see it till the cops clear tomorrow. You're doing fine, you're trying all the things you told your mom you never would. Just keep in mind that there's a price to pay for all the things that feel good. Don't burn out the light. Don't burn out the light. It's alright if you wake up to find the silver's on your window. 'Cause I don't mind posting bail if you can pay me back tomorrow. Just take some time and think of all the things you're messing up for everyone. And keep in mind that living slow, you know, don't always mean you're no fun. Don't burn out the light. 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 'Cause it can really be something. 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 That's right.
Now that's fun, taking some hot laps at Elsinore Speedway. And like I mentioned before, I would have my friends, my entourage, they would be throwing these big freeway cones at me, and I would have to dodge them. And then I was having all kinds of fun. I had like 5 or 6 different kinds of routines that I would do all the time, from practicing my starts to practicing riding the outside, which I wasn't really that good, and riding the pole all the time. And I was just having a good time riding every week. It was like my hobby. I was not really trying to be a national champion or anything, but I was having fun. So riding Speedway is all about what? Having fun. And I had a lot of memories as a Speedway rider. This is full of memories. And here's a couple right now. Welcome back. I have Bebop here, and Bebop is hanging out with me. We got low tide in the ocean, so we're just hanging out. She's dancing. Dance, Bebop. And today we're going to talk about interesting stories. A couple, I think, interesting, funny stories that happened to me as a motorcycle racer. And we're gonna go ahead and talk about that right now. Story happened a few years ago at Industry Hills Speedway after the races. I think it was a year I won my points championship, the track championship. I won 2 championships at Industry Hills. And I was after the races, I was signing autographs for the fans. And this one older gentleman came up to me and said, "I really enjoyed watching you race tonight." And I said, "Oh, thank you." And he said, "Your father was also a really great racer." And I thought, wait a minute. My father was not a racer. And I said, "What do you mean, sir?" And he said, "Yeah, I was over at the Santa Ana Bowl many years ago, and I watched your dad. He was the best. He was a great racer, and you follow your dad's footsteps. You're another great racer, just like your father." And I said, "Oh gosh, excuse me, but that was me. I was that racer you watched." And he said, "What?" And I said, "Yeah, my father didn't race. I was the guy at the Santa Ana Bowl, and I raced at Industry Hills." And he freaked out. He's like, "Oh my gosh." So I went ahead and I just laughed my buns off, because this guy thought that my father was racing and I was the son. So, and I said, "I'm the 2 people. I'm the one before and I'm the one now. I'm the great racer before and I'm the great racer today. And I just laughed. I think I laughed all the way home in my truck. It was so funny. That was probably one of the funniest memories I had, is just somebody thought my father was a racer and I was the racer. So it was just a crazy story. Also, when I was racing at Costa Mesa Speedway, after the races, everyone would come and get my autograph. And I signed autographs for a long time. And all the parents were there and the whole family was there watching me sign autographs. And everybody, the parents would come up to me and they'd say, "Can you do me a favor?" And I'd say, "Sure, what?" And they say, "Can I touch the bumblebee stripes on your sleeve?" And I said, "What?" I said, "Okay." So I'd stick my arm out and they wanted to like touch the bumblebee stripes. They liked the bumblebee stripes on my uniform. One side was a bumblebee and the other side was black. And some people said, they called me "now you see him and now you don't," because when I came around one side of the track, you could see the brilliant yellow stripes of the bumblebee. And then when I went around the other turn, it just went black. So because my stripes had no stripes on that side, only one side. So they called me "now you see him and now you don't." Another bumblebee experience that happened to me was when I was practicing at Paris Raceway in Paris, California. I got there early and I was putting my uniform on and I was preparing the bike, and I was there early. I was like the first one there. And a van pulled up about a few minutes later and I was dressed the first time ever in my bumblebee uniform. I bought the bumblebee uniform and no one ever saw me wearing it. I was kind of nervous, you know, like I was like, oh God, this is gonna be really freaky. So I wonder how people were gonna react, because everyone wonders like how they're gonna be perceived when they do something new, like wear the new bumblebee uniform. So a van pulled up a few minutes later and it was Neil Ficini and gang. And there was like 15 people in the van and Neil was driving. You know, he's kind of a cowboy type of guy, crazy guy. And he pulls in his van and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's Neil Ficini. And I'm like, "Hi Neil." And he put his head out the window and started laughing at me like, ah, ha, 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 ha. And then all the people in the van were sticking their heads out the window, like laughing at the bumblebee because they thought my uniform was really funny. And I sunk down like lower than an ant and I said, oh my gosh, this is not going to work out. Everyone's gonna laugh. But the truth was, everybody loved the bumblebee uniform and it was a big hit and it just was really great. I became really popular because of the bumblebee uniform, and fans really liked watching the bumblebee win. And a lot of the racers who were actually better than me, they were mad. And I said, "Why do you hate me so much?" And they said, "Because you have more fans than me and I'm better than you." And I said, "Well, you don't have the bumblebee uniform." So the bumblebee uniform was really great. Everybody loved it. But the first time I thought I was really gonna suck, you know, as far as like nobody would like the bumblebee uniform. But that was not true. The bumblebee uniform was really enjoyed by all. That was a few experiences of my Speedway racing days. I probably have some more I'll have to do. Some of my friends said, "Go ahead, Bryan, and share some of those experiences." And I was like, oh, maybe not. But okay, I'll share those. So I shared some with you. I'll share some with you more. So thank you so much for subscribing to my channel and liking and sharing. We really appreciate it. We're growing the channel all the time. We're getting floods of new subscribers. So thank you so much. It really means a lot. And we're going to do more. So please like, share, subscribe, and ring that bell.
Those were some fun memories of just riding and all these crazy stories. I have a lot more. Maybe I'll share those with you. But that was fun. We just enjoyed ourselves. Speedway is supposed to be fun, you guys, and it's fun. It's
it's fun to ride a bike. I mean, who doesn't like to ride a Speedway bike? I like to ride. I will ride one today if I had one. I mean, that's fun. So it's good. So we want to thank you so much for watching the early days of the Bumblebee. I was just having a little fun. We have Siggy coming on the show like tomorrow at 11 o'clock California time, a.m. in the morning. And so I just wanted to throw this little show together, have a little fun with you in the Hive. So don't miss the Siggy show. It's going to be a good time. We're gonna really have fun. Siggy's we're gonna just do some fun stuff on this show. So thank you so much for watching the early days of Bryan B and the Bumblebee 77. I have my Bumblebee uniform right back here, and I'd like to put that on someday and go for a spin. So thank you so much for watching the Bumblebee show and the live stream. We're here live in the Hive, and we're going to have Sarah Cords coming up and Blake Burrell. We have Blake coming up in the Hive. That's going to be fun. And Sarah Cords, who is a great young Speedway rider. We're going to have fun talking with her about Speedway and more. So thank you so much. We're going to just have a really good week coming up. And we have lots of people lined up to come in the Hive. So we're just having a good old time here in the Hive. So thank you so much. Enjoy yourself. Stay on two wheels. No crashes. And we'll see you tomorrow for Dennis Segallo Saturday, 11 a.m. Be there.